All right, good evening. I certainly hope and pray that all is well with everyone on today, on tonight. Hope you all had a good day. It's one of those, they change the time here. Okay, so it's getting darker earlier in where I live. Okay, it's not a lot of sun. We don't get a lot of, the bright, shining sun, daylight, of course, but not a lot of sun. But I really don't have anything specific to talk about. I just want to come online. I probably read some more of this book here that I have been reading. But so it feels much later than it is to me. Like right now, like what is it? 4:45 Eastern Standard Time, but it feels later than that. Like I was out about 10 o'clock this morning. It felt later, but like I said, we don't have a lot of sun. It's overcast. It's gray. Day is longer, so it felt much later. It felt like it was like mid-afternoon. It was only 10 a.m. I think it's funny sometimes, and people always talk about the weather and all the paranoia about the weather changes. I mean, weather has changed, but I hear people will say things like, "Oh, we didn't even have a fall, and we just went straight from summer to winter." And sometimes it does seem like that. But I've heard people say at times, they're like, "No, we clearly had an autumn. Like we clearly have one now." Um, but anyway, it's not really, of course, it's not summer. But I do feel like July just flew by. It just was like, where did July go? You know what I'm saying? I feel like September kind of felt like that to me as well. Okay, just gone. All right, but anyway, so other than that, I really didn't speak on much. Yesterday, I wanted to get on, but as soon as I got home, I was really sleepy. I fell asleep. Woke up with a cough, and I was like, okay, probably people are mad, so they're sending shit my way. Because it didn't feel like I had a cold or anything like that. Cleared that energy out. And then I left out for a couple more hours, came back home, and went right to sleep. And I mean, I would sleep like, hmm, maybe I got home maybe about 6:30 or something like that. And I mean, I slept hard. It's about 8 o'clock, got up, got myself ready for bed, went to bed. I mean, I could barely move. I said, I guess people mad about my last video, so. But it was good though, because I got some really good rest, okay? And I'm sleepy now. All right. But I want to go ahead and do just get on here, and for anybody that needs it, once again, here's your message for the evening. You're doing great, sweetie. You got all the people clapping for you. Cheers, cheers, cheers. All right. All right. So if you feel like you're not and blah blah blah, you're doing great. Keep going. Don't let the world's definition of what doing great is be your definition for what doing great is. All right. All right. So I was thinking about real quick this Briandra Bellamy when I did my live with Urban Alchemistic about how we actually met, and I read her line as post. I was thinking about this whole thing what she said about me not having get walking away from the house that was given to me. Really, I don't know no one explanation. People who are blessed with things by family or whatever, inheritances, house or whatever, they don't have to keep it if they choose not to, or if they feel a need to. Um, Hold on, please. Oh, okay. Found what I was looking for. Or if they feel a need to get it out of their possession. Uh, which I don't have to give any kind of explanation for that. especially concerning a woman I don't even know, I've never even met, who is constantly comparing her life to me. But I was thinking about when she said that was a big blessing. I just think that was so asinine. Um, this thing with words, and like I was saying before, how they've gotten people in a space here of creating like a whole nother language, but it only having any kind of relevance amongst those that basically not, it doesn't have any relevance amongst the larger society. Okay, like when people use that word bliss for bless, or understand and overstand for understand, or what else do they do? I know some people talk about grand rising as opposed to good morning, and I wasn't thinking that so much. There's another one I can't think of it off the top of my head, but anyway, and I can't, definitely can't take seriously anyone who opts to do that. Oh, this thing was saying great instead of rate, you know, uh, kill instead, I mean, unalive instead of kill. You know what I mean? It's just like, but you're saying that the word unalive means kill, or you're saying that the word great means rape. Um, I guess it's supposed to be. I'm not quite sure where the whole thing comes from. I've heard little things here and there over the years about those words being triggering to people. Well, if it means the same thing, then how is it not? How is using another word not triggering? There's nothing wrong with being triggered. Being triggered um, allows you to uh, be in a space of knowing what it is that is triggering you, so that you can be healed of that particular issue. Just like when people go to any kind of rehabilitation, the first thing that they're required to do is to admit that they have a problem. Being triggered by something, it shows you, if you're not aware, it shows you that you do have a problem in a particular area, and you cannot be healed of a particular thing unless you can admit or can see that you have a problem in that area. So I choose not to um, follow that line of reasoning, because it's not logical, and it's nonsensical to me. It doesn't make any sense. As well, I think that a lot of the things that people do, like that, for example, are because I was talking about these rulers, powers, principalities, so on and so forth. They put these things out into the society, things like that, to see, are you going, or if people are going to grab a hold of it and just do what they're told to do. And of course, it never fails. People do, because people are like sheep. Okay, they'll do whatever they're told. And when you have things like media, social media, I mean, how many? I was watching. I can't remember what I was watching the other day, but the guy mentioned all of these apps, all these social media apps, stuff I have never, absolutely have never heard of before. Shit, I know Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, which I've never been on there. And what's that other one? TikTok. But it's so many, so many, 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 many out there. So all it takes is to have someone um, pose as being some kind of educated whatever, and make a video about it, or have a talking point about it, even if they don't necessarily have any kind of they don't necessarily have to pose as a person with letters behind their name, but that makes it all the better. But whatever it may be, and that's how that's what they do all the time. They do it through media, they do it through music, they do it through whatever they tell you the end thing is for that time, and people just follow suit. Okay, and again, sheep, they just do what they're told. You're being told this, okay, by whose authority, and so what did they have letters behind their name? It doesn't make sense, but people follow it, or if the person is popular, but what makes them popular. People have this thing where they assume that popularity, especially with social media, is by numbers, when you know that you can buy numbers, or you know that you can just be given numbers, especially if you're some kind of plant, you know, placed uh, in certain places or areas or whatever to get the people uniform. Or I'm hearing get the people to do what it is that you want them to do. Those things, it just shows that people are easily, led, and will say and do anything, no matter how clown like it may be. Just like I said, I saw the girl with the her whole pajamas, robe, and everything on in the grocery store. And it's not just so much that. On that note, the look of it all, you know, there's a time and place for everything. Okay, we even find that in the manual. Okay, the Bible, what I call the manual. um that particular thing, wearing your pajamas and everything, like, not that you got out of the bed and cleaned yourself and then put your pajamas back on, or you just been walking around like that all day in your house, which is fine, but now you're out in the world amongst others and in a grocery store where there's food. Yeah, people are there to buy their food. Okay. um Let me find this real quick. There's the Nat, there's Bree. Bitch, go. Ain't been in here all day. Okay. Okay, let me get back to what I was saying. That's you're around. It's not about, okay, this the whole sassy attitude of, I can do whatever I want to do. Ain't nothing wrong with that. People just need to accept it. No, no one has to accept anything. You can do it. It doesn't mean people accept it, nor do they have to accept it in their being. They just look at you like you're ridiculous or stay away from you. Okay. So the whole sassy black woman attitude, and I don't think that that is a natural thing to black women. I think that is enough. That's some more propaganda, or if that's what you want to call it, maybe that might not be the word. Okay, there she is, the Nat. That may not be the word. Energy, or being told this is what you do, this is how you behave, this is how you act, and all it takes is to be some plant, okay, who works for whatever corporation, organization, government, whatever it may be, okay, who, just because they look like you does not mean that they are you. Just because they look human even doesn't mean that they are, okay, but they very well may be. Okay, they could be getting paid, or they just could be a part of the whole these, what they call psyops and whatnot. Okay, psychological operations. Okay, and they have different ones for different groups of people. Okay, and so people are studied, and they know specifically what will move that particular group, that particular gender, that particular race, that particular ethnicity. Okay, so all it takes is just to have enough plants, get on this thing called social media that you've been told just a common person, just like you, it's gotten on here and created some content, and a content creator, and that's not the case. Okay, and then create a whole create all of this a narrative around it that may give it sound, that may make it sound intellectual or thought provoking, or like, something that, yeah, that does make sense, when in actuality it doesn't. You understand what I'm saying? And then, get you to move on what you're being told to do through this platform, through media, any kind of media, really, but definitely through social media. But the idea is just like you're around food, okay, not just the food that you're going to buy. You're walking around with dirty clothes on. We're not talking about someone who's homeless, okay? Because right across the street from that grocery store, there's a library, and there's some women that have been there for a few years. They're homeless, And the library has allowed them to, they don't cause no problems or nothing like that. You know, they don't bother nobody, just ask for some change here and there for some money for lunch and whatnot. They allow them to sit in the library. They sit off in the corner. They don't bother anybody. They don't, you know, run around rummaging and being loud and problematic like the teenagers that come in there. Okay, but anyway, you know, uh, you know, you got out of your car, and you know you're dirty. So your whatever stuff that has not been cleaned up off of you in your pajamas that you sleep in every night, that you sweat in probably when you sleep, or you're emitting some kind of juices up out of your pores, all the or open orifices and whatnot in your body, and you're on your clothes, on your pajamas. Okay, is, you know, while we clean ourselves, you know, when it's before we go out amongst other people. And but now you've invaded the grocery store, and there's produce. Okay, the fruit is open, the vegetables and whatnot are open. You know, they had little plastic bags was to bag them. Okay, and just around other food, but you don't care because someone has told you, you've allowed them to plant a seed in your mind that what you're doing, you know, don't they can't tell you nothing. Okay, whatever that will fall up under the sass, the black woman, bad attitude sass, and they just days just got to accept it. No, no one has to accept that. Okay, and the grocery store has every right, because it's their business, to tell you you cannot come in this our business like this, because first of all, it could possibly be some kind of hazard, you know. uh what would you call it? I don't know what to call it. Just unhealth. I mean, just unclean. Okay, I think of the word later on. Okay, but you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so you don't think about those things. You just think about what these powers, principalities, rulers, and whatnot have told you through through media. Okay, for that particular category, for that particular group, I should say, of people, and you just fall in line and follow suit and do what they tell you to do, but don't really realize that that's exactly what you're doing. Okay. As well, hold on. What it does is it's kind of, in a sense, I feel like putting black women back into that stereotype of uh, the what they would now, just follow with me, okay? What they would call a mammy, okay, or you know, like the whole Aunt Jemima thing, okay, of her being in her maid clothes, her work clothes for her master, okay, with a headscarf on. I mean, it was at one point historically where black women were they could not legally, they could not show their hair, so they had to cover their hair. Okay, um I can find that real quick if you're patient. Okay, let me see if I can find it. There it is. Let me see, to show their hair. Under the 1786 Tignon, Tignon law in Louisiana, it was illegal for black women to show their hair in public, and they were required to cover it with a knotted headscarf called am I saying it right? Tignon, okay. The law was intended to suppress black women's status, to suppress their status, okay, and control their expression by forcing them to cover their hair, which was often ornately styled, okay. However, black women defined the law by using the tignon to express themselves creatively with luxurious fabrics and elaborate knots, a spirit that continues to be celebrated today. So some of the, head wraps that what we would see here. I'm just gonna show some pictures um real quick. Okay. See that? Here's some more pictures. Okay, just a real quick um search. But the whole thing is not there to put okay, here, the intent, the law, not they don't have to use a law anymore to suppress. This right here. I don't know if y'all see my finger. Okay, this right here. Okay, this right here. Okay, it's looking strange on this side. Is the law. Okay, like when they said what was I can't remember where it came out of, but they don't have to tell you if you fuck with the mind. They don't have to tell you to use the back door. You're just automatically going to go through the back door. Okay, when you have been made to feel and told that you are inferior. Okay, it's like we're regressing here. Okay, the law was enacted in 1786. The 10-year law required women of African descent to cover their hair with a headed. Okay, I just talked about that. The intent: the law aimed to suppress and control Black women who were seen as a threat to the social order, especially because of their beautiful hairstyles and potential to compete with white women for status. That hasn't changed. Okay. I know I remember I was talking to someone years ago, and we were talking about the whole, Hollywood and whatnot, and they were saying, well, they don't Hollywood doesn't really show Black women as beautiful, this, that, and the other, blah blah, which that's not necessarily true, but okay, I understood what they were saying, but it wasn't meant, it was not designed to do that. They the women that they wanted to show as beautiful and blah blah blah, this, that, and the other were their own women. Whose women? The people that created Hollywood, not those that they were oppressing. It's not their responsibility to. It's the people the those of that are oppressed. It's their responsibility to show themselves as beautiful, just like these Black women did, who took that law and took that scarf and said, well, fuck it then. You're making me cover my hair. Well, I'm gonna take this scarf here and wear and be just as luxurious and gorgeous and with it. You understand what I'm saying? Which is not what those who oppressed them with the law intended. But that's what they did. They took their responsibility in their life in their own hands. Okay. The law aimed to suppress and control Black women who were seen as a threat to the. I already said that. The defiance. They didn't ask for the freedom. They took it. They, what you say, transmuted it, alchemized it. This is what we gonna do with it. Okay. The defiance: rather than being oppressed by the law, Black women use the Tinyong as a form of cultural expression. They adorn the scarves with rich fabrics, jewels, and feathers, transforming them into a symbol of pride and creativity. The legacy: this act of defiance is a testament to the power of cultural expression, and the spirit of styling hair in beautiful and creative ways continues to be part of African American culture. I remember, like, when I went to a Catholic school. I went when I was in the 11th grade. I went to all girl Catholic school. And we wore uniforms. And man, oh man, what some of the students would do, how they would deck them damn uniforms the fuck out. Okay. But anyway, let me get back to this. So I feel it just kind of came to me this morning. This is not a put down of what this says here, the mammy caricature. The put down from me is what was intended, what they intended, how they intended to use it to make Black women feel less than, to make them feel inferior, to make them feel that they were not beautiful. Okay, that they were of lower status. Okay, but of course we know that that's just one picture, the caricature. Okay, that they used. Okay, once again to make them feel less than. You big, you fat. You know how y'all do with that fat shit. Okay, you're Black, and here in comes the whole colorism thing. Okay, I'm not saying that was just introduced at that point in time. Okay, I remember when I was a little girl, the whole ancient mama, how she was on the pancake box. Okay, They used to have a joke, ain't your mama on the pancake box? Okay, but anyway, and then how they changed it and took her out of, see, that's what it was. Okay, I was so young. I remember when they changed it, but I don't know if it was a cry out from the Black community that, hey, we're not this. This is not who we are. This caricature that you made is to be like some, something silly and something to be laughed at, and in our like maiden clothes waiting to go clean for massa. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. But they put her in I think it was more like a business suit. Okay. But I woke up this morning, I was thinking about that, and that's what I thought about. I said that whole thing, you're going out in a public here with clothes, pajamas, okay, your robe, and that stop at your, with this particular person I saw, so stop at your knees, and you know how robe it opens, it's not buttoned all the way down, and you have on your pajama, your pullover top that the woman was trying to close it so you couldn't see up her thighs, okay, because of the looseness of it all, and the dirty socks and the house shoes, and not. But I'm looking like, well, then, and somebody said, well, maybe someone's wrong mentally. Could have been, but I mean, I've seen people talk about it online. People, we ought to be able to go out to get my kid from school like this. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing to me. No, they're not going to say anything to you. Now, the school may tell you can't come in here like this. Okay. The manager or the owner of the grocery store say you cannot come in my establishment like that. I had a student one time when I first started teaching, when I was a professor, and I had a student will always come to class with his pants down his ass. So one time he came in late, and the boy was the drummer for the church. Okay. And I told him, you cannot come in my classroom like that. I don't want to see your nasty underwear. So either you put a belt on when you come in, put some pants on that fit at the waist, okay? Or if you can't find nothing and you can't get it together, don't bring your ass back to my fucking class, okay? Of course, I didn't cuss at him, okay? I was professional about it, and he didn't. He didn't come back there like that no more, okay? So the authority of whatever that place is can't tell you, And then people get mad, and then they get mad, and then they get on here with the TikTok and everything, make these silly ass videos, okay? But you're out here looking ridiculous, okay? Um, you can look ridiculous, but you expect to be able to intermingle in places that where you can cause some offense to others, but you want other people just to accept that you're being offensive to them, but yet you don't want to be offended. Okay. But besides that, I said, that's just that powers rulers power. But what all they're doing is just trying to take Black women. Because at one point, Black women got to with the big, huge fro, and that was their crown, and we queens, and from the Nile, and gods and goddesses, and to degenerating confirmation here, to degenerating to no longer that, but bad bitches, and now just you know dirty and stink looking, okay, at the fucking grocery store, and with the hand on the hip type thing, because that's another caricature, that's another stereotype that they've thrown at Black women, with the hand on the hip, constantly fussing. Okay, constantly you see like one cartoon I thought about that I used to watch. Me and my sibling used to watch a lot was Tom and Jerry. And boy, all them cartoons back in the day had all the stereotypes in them, But as children, you don't really know that, but until you get older and you learn something and you watch it. But the one Tom and Jerry, when they were in the house, it was always I don't remember what that maid's name was. I don't even know if she had a name, but they always showed the people in Tom and Jerry for the most part from the waist down, for the most part. Okay. And that's all she did, Tom, hand on the hip. Tom, that fussing. That's that stereotype from back in the day. Okay. That they had made of Black women, constantly hand on the hip, fussing, sassy, bad attitude, or you gonna do what I say. But no one's doing what you say. Okay, because you're not respected in the society, and not you're not respected because you don't deserve the respect, but because it's you are oppressed. You're a racist society. You are an oppressed group of people. This is the stereotype that they have thrown at you. Okay, about you. Okay. And it's amazing how powerful media is in that at one point in time, when during a period of enlightenment, the black community rebelled against that and fought against that, and they said that's not who we are. This is who we are. Okay. We have dignity. We respect ourselves. You understand what I'm saying? Our hair is our crown, so on and so forth. Our natural hair is what I'm trying to say is our crown, so on and so forth. But now they have put through the power of media once again taking are putting a message out that is taking black women back. Okay. And unfortunately, I feel like watching from what I'm seeing, black women happily taking the reign to I'll confirmation. I'll be the stereotype. Okay. I'll happily take us back. I'll be a part of that movement to take us further and further back from ourselves, our truth, and to what you say we are. Okay. All it is taking your power from you. Because whether we like it or not, no one is going to respect that. No one. No matter how much you put your hand on your hip, no matter how much you fuss with the sass and all that, no one. The black woman cashier, she's not going to. Matter of fact, when you turn around and you leave the store, they're going, or they're going to laugh, or people are going to be looking at you like, what the fuck? Okay. Did she even take a bath and she's around food? All right. This is how she picks up her children from school. Okay. All right. Moving on. And like I said, there's a time and place for everything. Like I said, this thing that in and of itself, and then what they will do is they will throw the idea of you, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? These are not just your regular everyday people who are making this kind of content when they initially come out with that, telling you that. No, they're not. But what happens is, once again, because the human mind is so weak, and human mind and spirit is so weak and vulnerable, and dying for some kind of validation, and dying to be seen, and dying to be accepted all the goddamn time. Okay, people listen to it who are fragile and weak and vulnerable, who are looking for some kind of acceptance in some way, shape, or form. Okay, and will say, yeah. Okay, and take on the image that some person you don't know who that person is behind that swing, telling you to do that, and you end up doing it, and then it becomes a whole movement, and then black women on here on social media cussing people out and giving them the finger and all of that, and nobody gives a fuck about you cussing them out. Nobody cares about you giving them finger. That does not move the world. It doesn't. It's just they're just looking at you as, see, that's who and what they are, ignorant, and that's not who and what black people are. That is not who and what black women are at all, in no way, shape, or form. But we cannot allow ourselves to be that goddamn fucking fragile, and accept any and everything these powers sitting behind these screens do whatever they tell us to do. Okay. It's in Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. Okay. I'm telling you, this book has a whole lot of shit in it. Okay, when people talk and hear someone come, ain't nothing in that book. Okay, no, all right. Mm-hmm. Let's see. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Okay. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted. I mean, just nature tells us that in and of itself. A time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up. There can be no resurrection without destruction. We destroy and build simultaneously. There can be no resurrection without destruction. A time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. Okay? Absolutely. Okay. That's time to cast stones, to gather stones together, not to throw out that person who has allowed himself to be infiltrated with foolishness. Okay, but to for those who have put the message out there. But at the same time, I guess they could say, well, if y'all choose to do it, you choose to do it. Just because we tell you to do it doesn't mean that you should. Just because a random person gets on media, whatever kind of media it is, that looks like you mean tell me you don't have the mind and the brain capacity to say that's some bullshit? I'm not doing that. Okay, or it's just for entertainment purposes only. All right, anyway, let's continue on. A time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to cast away, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate. Okay, so y'all out there, there's some people out there scared of hate. Okay, but there is a time for that. Without hatred, there would be no change in the world. Okay, it's what you do with it. Okay, you think that that's so evil and that's so bad and that's so wrong. No, absolutely it is not. If people did not hate injustices, we would still be living under some of the injustices that this world has been under. You gotta hate. Hate is a part of the human experience. It's what you do with it. Okay, a time of war and a time of peace. Okay, I ain't gonna read this whole chapter. I have seen the travail. No, I didn't finish. What profit hath he that worketh in that wherein he laboreth? I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. He's made everything beautiful in its time. He set the world in their heart so that no man can find out the work that God maketh from the beginning to the end. Okay, I ain't gonna read all that. I just want it's getting is it too much. I just want to read that part. There is a time for everything, a time and a place for everything. Okay, all things can everything cannot be intermingled in with each other because then you have no not so much then things you lose the definition of things. Things must be defined. Okay, for there to be order. Okay, and it has to be order. But so I was thinking about that whole bliss. I was like, that's so silly. Those words that people use. Um and this thing that people think that blessing is you mean blessing, not blessing. But I mean you mean blessing. Okay, because you do whatever you're told to do. Whatever the end thing is, Brianna Bellamy, that's what you do, you know. I've heard people say be less. No, that's not the etymology of the word blessing. I mean, I get it, but that's not it. So I said, well, let me look it up. Okay. Middle English blessing from Old English bletzian or bletzian, no, Northumbrian. Northumbrian Blotzian, to consecrate by a religious rite, make holy, give thanks. From Proto-Germanic Blottison, hollow with blood, mark with blood. From Blotham, blood. Originally a blood sprinkling on pagan altars. This is what I'm reading the etymology of the word bless. This word was chosen in Old English, a Bible to translate Latin benedicere and Greek eulogian, both of which have a ground sense to speak well of, to praise, not be less. Okay. But were used in scripture to translate Hebrew brk, burk, to bend the knee, worship, praise, invoke blessings. L.R. Palmer, the Latin language, writes, there's nothing surprising in the semantic development of a word denoting originally a special ritual act and to the more generalized meanings to sacrifice, worship, bless. And he compares Latin immolare. Okay. The meaning shifted in late Old English toward pronounce or make happy, prosperous, or fortunate by resemblance to unrelated bliss. The meaning invoke or pronounce God's blessing upon is from early 14th century. Okay. Now let's look at blessing. Middle English blessing from Old English bletsunga, bletsung, divine grace, protecting influence of a deity, a saint, state of a spiritual well-being or joy. It means exactly what it says it means. Okay. Also of a sanction or benediction of the Pope, a priest, verbal noun from bless. Okay. The meaning, a gift from God. So you would have been fine just saying blessing instead of blessing. Okay. But I know you have to follow the trend because you believe that that is what makes you stand out and be important. Okay. So that's for Brianna Jo Bellamy. The meaning, a gift from God, that which gives temporal or spiritual benefit, is from mid to 14th century in the sense of religious invocation before a meal. It is recorded from 1738. Phrase blessing in disguise is recorded from 1746. Okay. But let me be petty. It is having children is also a blessing, two of which you walked away from to go get that pink peen in Finland. So you worry about your blessings, not mine. All right. That's a bliss. That's a big blessings. A bloodline ain't gonna give it nothing now. I guess your bloodline will stop giving you children now, since you ain't gonna take care of them. Since that white dick is more important to you than they are. All right. Okay. Anyway, so we're gonna read maybe one or two more chapters on this book, Ek Wisdom and Conquering Fear. Okay. The first chapter, if you've been watching, where fear comes from, the key is within you. Now, can you let go? Now, this is interesting. I'm not talking about the chapter. I read this a long time ago. I'm talking about the whole idea of letting go. Can you let go? What does that really mean? But let's just see what this says here. A woman I'll call Victoria lived in California. English was her second language, and she wasn't very comfortable with it. Even though she did very well in business and wrote fluently, she felt her speech was choppy. She would get the English sentence structure backward, and sometimes she came across as too abrupt. Every Tuesday, Victoria was one of the leaders at a management group. Her language skills often got in the way. She began to dread Tuesdays. Sometimes she was able to pull it off, but other days she was reduced to tears afterwards as she drove home. Since she had come into Eckankar, fear had gone away in many other departments of her life, but this one particular fear was still with her. One day, Victoria went out for a walk. She was crying. Mahanta, again, this is Mahanta and whatnot. This is part of this community here, which I am not a part of. Okay, I got this book at a psychic fair that I was a reader at. Okay, I got a bunch of them over there, but they're really good. Okay, please help me overcome this problem that I have. She said, help me with this fear. Okay, in front of her there was a hill. She heard a silent nudge, the silent voice from the inner master. Go to the top of the hill. This is so interesting. I'm going to tell you why. Let me read this paragraph. Go to the top of the hill. So she walked up the hill and she saw the clouds. They were blue and pink and very pretty and wispy. The reason I say it's interesting because I was talking the other night about this man that I was married with, the Hebrews. Okay, and the second time that I went to Israel, I was only supposed to be there, I think, for like a week, 7 days. But he and I were getting married, so we had to meet with the priest, have a counseling with the priest, and they weren't able to do it because of an event that was going on. They couldn't do it for like 2 weeks. So I was called the airline to push back my leave date, and they didn't have anything for like a month or 2 months out because I was there for 2.5 months. Okay, that was the first flight out. I was like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking my job, they was gonna fire me because I didn't have the time. I'm thinking all of this stuff. I talked to, I think, one of the priests about it. He said, there is a hill, go to that hill. Okay. And he said, and pray about it. And he said, whatever you ask for, you will be given. I promise. I said, okay. I went to that hill and I prayed. That's why I'm looking at this. I went to that hill and I prayed. I was like, I prayed my prayer about having to leave and afraid I was going to, when I had to leave, when I could leave rather, what was going to happen with my job, so on and so forth. I called my job and they were just like, it's fine. It doesn't matter. You'll still have your job when you get back. And I did. They did not. I have no problems, no write-ups, no nothing. Okay. I had no sick time. I had no vacation time. I didn't have shit left. All right. But they said, it's okay. You'll be just fine. And it was. So was my interruption here. Let me get back to reading. By the time she got to the top of the hill where the wind was blowing, there are many days I'm like, man, I wish I was at that hill. I need that hill right now, okay? But anyway, by the time she got to the top of the hill where the wind was blowing, much of the burden had lifted from her. She felt better, happier. She looked down at her feet and saw an ant. The ant was pulling on a feather about 30 times larger than itself. The feather was a huge burden for the little ant. It was trying to pull this feather into the wind. Victoria looked at the ant and wondered, why does the ant bother? It's not food. Where is the ant hill? Where would the ant possibly want to take this feather? You can imagine an ant coming home with this huge feather and the mother ant saying, you're not bringing that thing in the house. She watched the ant struggle and struggle. Finally, the ant stopped. It let go of the feather and the feather blew away. The ant then scurried off looking a lot freer and happier. Finally, the ant stopped. It let go of the feather and the feather blew away. The ant then scurried off looking a lot freer and happier. As Victoria watched this, she realized her fear was just like that feather. If she could let go and let love enter into her life, love would displace the fear. Remember, there is no love in fear. Perfect love casts out fear here. Okay, we find that in the manual here. If she could let go and let love enter into her life, love would displace the fear, and the fear would no longer have any power over her. It's interesting that the image divine spirit brought to her in this waking dream was a feather. What's a feather? It's a plume, something to say, look what a dandy I am. It was a feather in the cap of the ant, so he thought, to come home with this beautiful thing. Wouldn't everyone envy him? Okay, so see, some of the things that we hold on to and trying to carry, okay, out of fear, okay, but also, so concerned about how others will view us, how others see us, what will others think about us? Wouldn't this mean I'm somebody now? Okay. Wouldn't they, envy me and appreciate me and value me, so on and so forth. But goddamn, he couldn't even care the motherfucker. And what use was it? Was the feather to him? But here it is. But the feather was really a burden, like her fear. Victoria found if she could let go of fear the way the ant let go of the feather, her life would improve dramatically. It would be a more pleasant life. The way to do this was let more divine love into her life. How, in what way, what form, I don't know for Victoria. Okay, but again, where there's fear, there's no love. Okay, and where there's love, absolutely, there's no fear. Okay. She had already done this with her smaller fears, and God's love had already rid her of them. Now she was learning to do this with a big fear. I was thinking about that recently with some things that I was thinking about for myself, and just I found myself at some points just like, it was amazing. Sometimes it's not anything that you have to work to do. Like, let me meditate it away, let me pray it away, and all of that type of thing. No, sometimes it's just a matter of how, what do they say, how to get out, go within. Okay, in you. Okay, the focus on you in a healthy way. Okay, self-love. Okay, coming to the place of understanding oneself, loving oneself, focusing on oneself brings you the self-love. And a lot of times because you're focusing on yourself and loving yourself, all that you are, embracing all that you are. Okay, the dark, the light, so on and so forth. Then therein comes the love, and automatically out goes the fear, and you will find yourself like automatically certain things that you thought were important, some certain things that you thought that you needed, or certain things that you thought meant something, so on and so forth, that just dissipate. You look up one day just like, I'm not even thinking about that shit no more, or I don't even want that anymore, that doesn't even mean anything to me anymore, because you've let go. All right. Well, that's all I have for tonight. We're not going to go in the next chapter. We'll save that for another day. Okay. It can be a lifelong thing. All right. All right. I certainly hope you all have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. If you, like, I'm in the Midwest here, what they call the Midwest, Ohio. And again, It's not like cold. It ain't hot, but it ain't cold. It's autumn. Just the darkness. If you feel like uh just hibernating. Just you want to just take a big old nice blanket and just, get up under that blanket. You know what I'm saying? Like with some warm tea or some good coffee or some shit. Or some people maybe hot chocolate or something and just chill and watch movies and whatnot. Okay, that's what I like to do. Or maybe read or listen to a good podcast or something like that. All right. But nevertheless, you all have a good evening. You all have favor and be blessed. Peace.